Everyone dreams of a life of discovery and adventure. But one place on Earth was charting seas and discovering lands long before the rest of the world dreamt of it. With every expedition, they brought home untold wealth, and more importantly, knowledge of the rest of the world. And this fountain of knowledge is what the modern world was built on. Join us as we look back to the age of discovery, to the home of the great explorers and voyagers, Portugal. I continue my journey across the Iberian Peninsula, crossing the border of Spain to an entirely new territory. Spain and Portugal's border is the longest, uninterrupted boundary in the European Union, almost indistinct on either side, save for the 1-hour time difference. But in the 15th century, these two states were the bitterest of rivals, building massive fleets of ships, sending explorers to far-off lands. As the Silk Road and other land-based trade routes began to disintegrate with the decline of empires, European traders looked to the sea for faster and more secure routes. The small nation of Portugal, facing the Atlantic Ocean, was to make a big impact on globalization. Its old capital city, Lisbon, is where it all began.
This is Commerce Square. In the olden days, the traders would come here and barter and trade their goods, and the explorers would come over looking for funders for their expedition.
Large profits were offered to anyone who can gain a direct trade route to the riches of Asia, where spices, gems, and other prized goods are sourced. In 1415, Portugal's King João I successfully conquered the Moroccan city of Ceuta, establishing their first foothold in Africa. He was a learned man and passed on his love for culture and knowledge to his sons. Edward, who became king, was also a poet and writer. Peter, an educated and well-traveled prince for his time. And Henry, who is best remembered as Henry the Navigator, the young prince who led Portugal to the age of discovery. Henry's curiosity and ambition made him set his sights on Portugal's overseas expansion. He established a center for the study of navigation, naval architecture, astronomy, and science. Under his direction, they developed a lighter, more powerful ship called a caravel, whose triangular sails allowed the ship to proceed either in cross or headwinds. For years, he dispatched ships to the Atlantic with orders to proceed as far as possible, mapping the coast and seas. During Henry's reign, they mapped out most of Africa, dispelling medieval beliefs of sea monsters, boiling waters, and giant whirlpools, establishing small colonies in nearby islands. Portugal gained a huge advantage over other European countries, and the maps they created were considered state secrets. Today, one can look down Praça do Comércio and imagine fleets of ships departing for perilous voyages and coming back to its shores laden with riches from other lands. For any explorer, It really felt like standing on the shoulder of giants, even getting to touch their toes. Up next, I continue to step back into the age of discovery and uncover the wealth of influences that shape Portugal's unique culture. At the height of Portugal's power, Lisbon's harbor was the gateway that linked the old and new worlds. The triumphal Rua Augusta Arc opened up to Augusta Street, so named because it was a passage reserved for the royalty entering the city from the port. Today, it is a lively pedestrian street, lined with restaurants that offer a taste of traditional Portuguese cuisine.
I can't visit Lisbon or Portugal for that matter without having bacalao. And also sardines, by the way. A little bit too much for me, but I'm sure I can finish it.
Bacalao, or salted cod, is a staple in Portuguese cooking, with over 1,000 recipe variations.
I've been having bacalao with different kind of cooking. Grilled is really good.
Sardines are also very popular among the Portuguese, whose cuisine relied heavily on the bounty of the sea.
Sardines very good. Haven't had fresh sardines for a while, and this is really perfect. It's really good having it just in the cafes, watching people go by. Perfect.
Feeling like a real dom, I walk the street spiral to Rua Augusta, Rua de Oro, or Gold Street, and Rua de Prata, or Silver Street. Some say they are named after the gold and silversmith shops that line the avenues, while some believe that sacks of gold and silver used to be dragged along these streets from the port brought on by Portugal's voyagers. 2 generations after Henry the Navigator's reign, one highly regarded voyager was at the forefront of Portugal's golden age. Vasco da Gama, who was the first to link Europe to Asia via a sea route reaching India by going around the coast of Africa. His discovery ushered in a period of global imperialism for Portugal. I climbed the steep steps to the Castle of St. George, Lisbon's historic fortification since medieval times. The fortress was a former royal residence and Lisbon's last line of security against invaders. The oldest parts of the castle date back to the 6th century. From the Romans to the Moors to the Portuguese monarchs, this castle has seen it all. It was also here that King Manuel I welcomed Vasco da Gama as a hero. Da Gama established a foothold in what is now the state of Kerala in southern India, while other Portuguese armadas conquered the shores of Galle in Sri Lanka, securing a steady supply of valued spices and precious gems. King Manuel reaped the benefits of Portugal's golden age, with the discovery of Brazil and a monopoly of trade in the Indian Ocean and Persian Gulf. He was known to have gifted exotic animals like elephants to the Pope in order to gain favor. Celebrating Vasco da Gama's safe return from India and delighting in the riches from the expeditions, King Manuel commissioned the building of a grand monastery.
The St. Jerome Monastery is considered a very good example of Portuguese architecture. It is now considered a World Heritage Site.
With the influx of wealth, the builders were not limited to small-scale plans. The monastery's ornate architecture, which incorporates marine motifs and oriental elements, came to be known as the Manueline style, named after the king. The Order of St. Jerome was tasked to give spiritual assistance to sailors and navigators who departed from the nearby port to distant lands. Vasco da Gama and his men spent nights here in prayer before they left for their expeditions. Only one other structure of this design survives, which can be found at the port where ships set to sail.
This is Torre de Belém. It marks the entrance to the city if you're sailing by boat. It's another example of Portuguese architecture and is considered a World Heritage Site.
Built as a lighthouse for ships and watchtower to protect the city, King Manuel went on to embellish the military structure with elaborate architectural details borrowed from all over the world. Torre de Belém was the starting point for many voyages of discovery, and for sailors, it was the last sight of home before many months at sea. Exploring Lisbon's historic quarter, it is very easy to miss the Igreja de São Roque, one of the earliest Jesuit churches in Europe. Its unassuming exterior hides one of the most exquisitely decorated churches in Lisbon. Financed by the wealth from the Portuguese colony of Brazil, it was built as Europe's most expensive church at that time. The lavish interiors reflected the church's effort to capture the attention of the faithful. All this gold would surely leave any churchgoer in awe. The interior was initially assembled by famous architects in Rome, then dismantled and shipped to Lisbon for rebuilding. Truly an extravagant construction for its time. It seemed as if there was no end to Portugal's golden age. The Portuguese Empire continued to expand, mapping the coast as far as Southeast Asia, Canada, and Brazil. But tragedy struck as 2 generations after King Manuel, the young Portuguese King Sebastian set off to extend their kingdom in North Africa against the advice of his court, never to be seen again. Leaving no heir, the Spanish King Philip, who was married to a Portuguese princess, saw an opportunity to grab the Portuguese throne. This marked the end of an era, as newcomers in overseas exploration also arrived. The British, French, and the Dutch, all competing for the control of the trade routes. One headstrong navigator, Fernando de Magallanes, got into a fight with King Manuel and fell out of favor. Because of this, he sought support in Spain and went on to discover the Philippines. Though his life ended in the Battle of Mactan, his ship was able to accomplish the first circumnavigation of the Earth, proving that the Earth was not flat. These expeditions forever changed world history as we know it, and it felt great to be walking the same streets that these great explorers once did. Up next, I get to know present-day Lisbon up close and discover its aviation heritage. After I delved deep into Portugal's colorful history, I also took time to appreciate modern-day Lisbon driving through its old streets. Lisbon is a very ancient city, predating even Rome, Paris, and London by centuries. But it is no less stunning than these famous cities. One can fully appreciate its charm by walking and seeing everything up close. Beautiful azulejos or painted ceramic tiles, a tradition brought in from Moorish Spain, still decorate old buildings. Looking down, intricate cobblestone patterns decorate pavements. Its many miradores or viewpoints offer a panoramic view of the illuminated city, as Lisbon is often called, for the constant presence of sunshine and light reflected from the water that gives the city a distinct glow. As if its old world charms cannot be emphasized enough, antique trams still ply the city's rolling terrain. Lisbon is actually built on 7 hills, and the city is divided between its upper and lower districts. The Santa Justa lift, an old elevator built in 1900, helped ease travel from between the two districts. Because of the city's elevation, bringing fresh water into the city was also a challenge. Because of this, the Aguas Libres Aqueduct was built, with its long stretch of giant arches, combined with a vast network of underground canals that help pump water from nearby hills. These are just some of the varied and unique fragments of history scattered across the city. Just a few steps from the Torre de Belém, I come across a seaplane monument.
In 1922, 2 naval aviators from Portugal flew this ferry biplane seaplane from Portugal all the way to Brazil.
The first flight to cross the South Atlantic and the first aerial crossing using astronomical navigation was accomplished by Portuguese naval aviator Gago Coutinho and Sacadura Cabral. Flying in uncharted routes, their only guide was Coutinho's reinvention of the traditional marine sextant. This provided an artificial horizon that allowed them to measure their accurate position even through darkness or heavy fog. Their ingenuity proved to be very effective, and Coutinho's sextant was later on mass-produced to aid many pilots who wanted to follow his footsteps. Today, Portugal's aviation legacy continues in the form of a global aeronautic company north of Lisbon. My good old friend Jose from Embraer invited me to visit Ogma, a Portuguese company specializing in aircraft manufacture.
Bon dia.
Bon dia. How are you?
Happy to
Good
meet
to
you.
see you.
For a long
Welcome
time.
to Portugal.
For a long time. We haven't seen each other.
Yes.
Yes,
Very nice.
yes.
Very nice. Introduce
Captain
you.
Joy.
Nelson?
Nelson.
Yes.
Welcome
And
to
Paulo.
Ogma.
And Paulo, of
Nice to
course,
meet you.
yes.
I think you will be very pleased with what you're going to see.
It will be a pleasure to show you Ogma.
Oh,
Let's
very
have a tour.
interested. Yes.
Founded in 1918, then state-owned Ogma pioneered the aviation industry in Portugal, with its main focus on defense. Now, majority owned by Embraer, it has established itself worldwide as a reliable MRO service center and aerostructures manufacturer. Nelson tells me that the company puts great value in its rich heritage and strong foundation, their guiding compass in every venture.
So Nelson, you've got a very big hangar here.
We do.
Well, it's an old one, I can see, made out of wood.
It is an heritage. That's the only one you will find in Portugal.
I can imagine.
Originally used for the repair of hot air balloons, it now houses memorabilia of Ogma's almost century-old legacy.
So it's
Fantastic how
been
you've kept
quite
it.
a while. Yes, it is. It is. And then if you see, it's a wood that we keep on preserving. Quite an amazing piece of art, I would
Yes,
say.
it
When
is.
you look at how we do it nowadays and how it used to be done. It's amazing.
I think, it changes your perspective of the new one when you see that they keep the old.
Yeah, they don't do it these days
Yeah.
like this.
From a lone wooden hangar, Ogma now houses a number of state-of-the-art facilities, which I got to check out.
So this is the engine shop, huh?
This is our engine shop. We are a Rolls-Royce authorized maintenance center. It's been years and years, so here that's where we do all the engine maintenance. We disassemble, we repair, we assemble, we test, and we ship it out.
From simple repair to full fleet support, it is a one-stop shop for military aircraft, commercial, and executive aviation.
So this is a 190?
Yeah,
By the looks of it,
Embraer
yes.
E-Jet 190.
Right.
So we just got this aircraft from Brazil, and we're doing a major heavy check.
Heavy check.
And the redelivery to a new client, so within the same group.
So both engine, landing gears, interiors, you do everything.
Yes, we do everything. We have capacity to do every maintenance on aircraft, structural work, avionics, systems, whatever, all the airframe, then engines as well.
They even have their own paint hanger with a fully automated door that allows natural light to go in. Definitely economical.
I wish I can have my own paint hanger like this at home.
You can bring your aircraft here.
After a nice extensive tour of their facility, the boys brought me in to meet Ogma CEO Rodrigo Rosa.
How do you like the visit here?
Oh, we're enjoying ourselves. Of course, we gained a lot of weight already. Eating too much bacalao and...
That's terrible. Do not take care.
Yes.
You get much more weight.
The easygoing bunch tells me the secret to Ogma's success.
The Russian operators, they love to come to Portugal. Maybe a combination of the good service and good food.
I'm sure. Weather too.
I can easily see why aviation companies from around the world trust the services of Ogma. Hard work, passion, and technical advancement are characteristics of Portugal's early voyagers. Traits that are deeply embedded into the country's culture. For anyone who dreams of exploration and adventure, the old world of Lisbon, with its glorious and colorful history, truly inspires. It is a reminder that great rewards await those who are brave enough to venture out into the world, to discover new lands, understand new cultures, and bring home new knowledge. The first European empire still proved to be the last, and Portugal will always be known as the home of the great explorers.
This has been your captain, Joy Roa. See you in the next Asian Air Safari.